Well, hello, that's me again. Today is Friday, January 12th, and I will start with a pretty much great sad news that it looks like that Gonzalo Lira, he wasn't my friend, but I knew him because I took part in a couple of his broadcasts and he obviously knew me. It looks like he is dead. And the question is not the fact that he is dead, which is sad in itself, obviously. Whoever he was as a human being, and he tried his best probably, to promote his ideas and then doing his basically journalism from Kharkov. But it is the method of which we lost, we can say, Gonzalo. It's the fact that he obviously was captured by the SBU, the Security Service of Ukraine. And there's no doubt now that he was tortured because he actually died from the complications, as his note suggests. So what can I say? It is just yet another crime of the Kiev regime, and people say that Gonzalo, obviously, and his parents tell that Victoria Nuland personally hated him. And you cannot pass anything by Victoria Nuland and those neocon psychos, not psychos, sociopaths primarily, because most of them are cowards, if you wish. So, and this is the sad news. But obviously we will have to start with before going into weekend, to what, well, it was kind of clear from the get-go that it's going to happen. And we can take a look at Yemeni attacks, as was reported yesterday by, actually it was, I believe, Reuters, that President Joe Biden said that the strikes were meant to demonstrate that the U.S. and its allies will not tolerate the militant groups' ceaseless attacks on the Red Sea. Then he said that they only made the move after attempts at diplomatic negotiations and careful deliberation. Well, obviously it's complete BS. There was no any real attempts on that, and we know what Houthis were pursuing and still will continue to pursue, is to basically stop any kind of shipping towards Israel, which Israeli-owned vessels. And the issue here is that, well, certainly it did have its effect. It also kind of paralyzed most of the shipping in the Red Sea and on the Strait. So, and that had obviously the global effect. However, so Biden said in a statement about, that the use of the missiles, which is correct. So he noted that attacks endangered U.S. personnel and civilian mariners and jeopardized trade. And he added, I will not hesitate to direct further measures to protect our people and free flow of international commerce as necessary. Associated Press journalists in Yemeni capital Sana'a heard 4 explosions. So actually they continue to report that circumstances surrounding this strike. A senior administration official said that while the United States expects the strikes will degrade the Houthis' capabilities, we would not be surprised to see some sort of response, which is probably already happening one way or another. So they are correct in this respect. And the Houthis say their assaults are aimed at stopping Israel's war on Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Well, it's kind of very, how to put it, watered down statement, because basically what is happening in Gaza Strip nowadays is more than just the war on Hamas. It is basically the war on the whole population of the Gaza Strip, which basically genocide, de facto genocide happening. So in this respect, you can understand where Houthi is coming from. And what can I say? Meanwhile, the UN Security Council passed a resolution Wednesday that demanded the Houthis immediately cease the attacks and implicitly condemn their weapon supplier Iran. It was approved by a vote of 11-0 with 4 abstentions by Russia, China, Algeria, and Mozambique. And I want to immediately go on the record here, because there were so many of those, high moral people, who obviously sit in their chair as I'm doing right now, and they try to really pontificate from the point of view of some morality when they say, oh, Russia should have done this, condemned this, and people evidently do not understand why Russia has abstained. Russians have their own game, and actually they have own shipping there too through Bab and Maldeb Strait. So in this particular case, the abstention of Russia is like you know what, guys, deal with this situation completely on your own. The same way as Russians, for some people, many people, they think that Russians should immediately deploy Pskov and Ivanovo paratroop divisions into the Gaza Strip and stop Israel's atrocities. When you begin to explain to them that world actually, well, definitely has some moral and especially emotional element, they have to understand that world as a whole and practical geopolitics or applied geopolitics, they operate not on the emotions only, by far. It's a small element there, but primarily they operate on the cold calculations. This is how it was, is, and always will be. And Russia, and together with the Union State with Belarus, has about 160 plus million people she has to take care first and foremost. So if anybody thinks that it's a good idea for Russia to get interfere into the Gaza Strip, whatever is happening there, and the horrible things are happening there, which completely discredited Israel, let alone this Israeli Defense Force, which commit the wholesale war crimes and genocide. So they have the other thing coming, because this is not how it works. This is not how balance of power is formed, and that is why Russia and China, two superpowers, they abstained. Because you know what, as much as we can sympathize with the Houthis, well, emotional, immoral, and physical support for people of Gaza, things are so complex that if somebody wants people to start voting and expressing their opinions in non-stop in terms of other than words, which is the diplomacy, then they, as I already stated, they better check their reality, because it can really escalate fast into the World War III. And then guess what? Nobody wins. Does anyone want to risk nuclear war? Even neocons, granted their sociopathic behavior, but they are cowards. And they understand that in the end, if things go really south, they're not going to be safe. They will die. You know, they will be burned in the inferno. So, and that is why when I understand emotional element of people, I understand how they approach those things. And believe me, my blood boils of seeing what is happening to Gaza and what Israel commits there. It's, I mean, it's a genocide. But there are certain things people cannot do. They can play diplomatic games, but again, there is no necessity for Russia to send the fleet there or send the paratroopers or what have you. This is not how the world works. It never worked differently. So there you go. But and what is most important, however, in the Yemen attacks, as you might expect it was, you know, what the big protests, as Reuters report, break out in Yemen after U.S.-British attacks, and tens of thousands of Yemenis gathered in several cities on Friday to hear their leaders condemn the U.S. and British strikes on their country in response to the attack by Houthis militants on Red Sea shipping. So it is expected, and if you go to Garland Nixon yesterday, he makes a great summary about the reaction of Houthis, and you know, these are wrong people if they decided to really fight them. And what is important, after these strikes stop, they not ongoing. They're not ongoing as we speak. There was something like 60 targets they targeted and struck. So then we already see that Royal Navy is sending ships back to reload whatever. So much for British naval power. And United States already stated that it's basically they don't have, you know, no plans to continue this, and they were correct that essentially they have to wait for response now. There were attacks on some US bases, including in Iraq, so, well, we'll wait and see. So, and it is very similar when people say the massive attacks. I mean, there was a, you know, just bombing run, basically, the, you know, what they do usually with the carrier-borne aviation in the U.S. Navy. They just launch them, they go in, blow some targets, or they think that they blow targets, and they returned back to the aircraft carrier. It's traditional modus operandi of the NATO. They fight the defenseless nations, and Yemen obviously is pretty much defenseless from the air. They don't have serious air defense systems. They have some, as I already stated, weapons such as anti-shipping missiles, and which they can try to use again. So we'll see where it all goes, but it's not the only thing which is happening in the world, of course, despite the fact that we obviously are affected by it. And here is the very interesting issue, which is, you know what, how to put it politely. Here's Mr. Kirby yesterday. As you can see yourself, I pulled out the caption here, subtitles. He's talking about the last drawdown package that we had funding to support Ukraine. It was from the White House briefing, and yeah, they stopped deliveries of anything. So, and here is what basically is confirmed by the news organization, that the flow of U.S. military aid to Kyiv has now stopped, White House National Security spokesman John Kirby said on Thursday. His remarks came amid a debate in Congress on whether to continue support for Russia in its conflict, for Ukraine, pardon me, in its conflict with Russia. We have issued the last drawdown package that we had funding to support, and that's why it's critical that Congress move on that national security supplemental request. Kirby told reporters at a press briefing, admitting that the assistance that the U.S. had provided has now ground to a halt. Well, I mean, they certainly are free to discuss this and debate this in Congress, whatever they want. But here we have this chutzpah guy. And look at this. Zelensky accused politicians in the United States of depriving pensioners in Ukraine of money. So that basically supports the thesis which I was on record for years now, I mean, year and a half at least, that the Ukrainian state exists only because United States and their vassals, lapdogs such as Germany, fund it. It's not only about military support anymore, because the United States cannot provide much in terms of military support, let alone those pipsqueaks like United Kingdom or Germany or France, but because basically it's all about money to sustain this state, to maintain this corpse of the state as the ram against Russia in any kind of form. And so here it is. Here's Mr. Zelensky says that the position of U.S. presidential candidate, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and congressional Republicans who blocked the allocation of aid to Ukraine threatens to leave pensioners in Ukraine without payments. Well, the question is, what about the Ukrainian state itself, Mr. Zelensky? You are the president. Well, can you do anything but basically snort cocaine or torture people and kill them in, as well prisons, and basically kill hundreds of thousands of your compatriots on the front line? Can you do anything by, like running the state, developing economy, things of this nature? Of course not. We know it is all garbage. And so now here, Zelensky talks that they, Republicans, and people like him, like DeSantis, refuse to help our military with salaries, and said that this is a matter exclusive for Ukraine. And then they say that we can't allocate aid for the military because we are a country, a NATO country, and we can't support the war. They didn't give salaries to the military. We needed help for our budget. So, well, that basically confirms to you completely that armed forces of Ukraine are nothing more than the extension of NATO. And of course, they are very unhappy with the fact that the NATO got its ass handed to it in the basically in the what's left of Ukraine, and things accelerate to such a level right now that, in some sense, actually, blowing some few storages of something here and there in Yemen, they think that Biden administration thinks that it somehow can, remove focus from the catastrophe, absolute debacle of the historical proportion in Ukraine. So However, he said that in the event of delay of the provision of financial assistance from partners, vulnerable categories of the population will suffer. In particular, according to him, to Zelensky, there are about 12 million pensioners in Ukraine who will be drafted soon. Believe me, they will draft those people too to fight those damn Ruskies. And he says who will simply die out if they are not given a pension. Well, you have to consider the fact that United States insists that Zelensky continue with the mobilization. They cannot mobilize any more normal people. So they mobilize either complete, I mean, we already saw our people basically proofs of their having the people with the disabilities, the third category of disability. They draft people without limbs even, to fight those Russians. So those pensioners, one way or another, are doomed because obviously United States cannot support this country, this regime anymore. Well, they might still somehow get them $60 billion, but it will change absolutely nothing. And so Zelensky also added that DeSantis is young and does not understand what it means to support pensioners in a country at war. According to him, more than 70% of the money allocated for Kyiv remained in the United States, and these funds were received by people, including American pensioners. So you basically see that the guy is delusional. I don't know how much cocaine he consumes nowadays, but this is what we have. And as I already stated, the United States probably will be able to push through maybe another package. But then, you know what, we have the situation with the election year in the United States, and there are no normal people running for presidency. And when you look at this, who needs waste another money, because people who have any competencies, especially military competencies in terms of the operational strategic level, they begin to understand that it's over for Ukraine and armed forces, and it doesn't matter what they do. And you can even have money, you cannot buy weapons with them because they don't have any. They can steal some weapons, like, they try to grab some Soviet-era equipment from Ecuador, which is completely destabilized. But Russians already stated, it's not going to end well. And now we have this clownish circus level security pact signed between Mr. Sunak and Zelensky. So there are the two pipsqueaks. I mean, just basically economic and militarily, United Kingdom is just, it's a laughing stock. And so, I don't know, so here Mr. Sunak promises some kind of intelligence, and recon, basically supply of information for Ukraine. With what? They have only basically what is basically American platforms, which are P-8 Poseidons and some AVACs. In the United Kingdom doesn't have any space program. Well, they have some, like, some subcontractor making some small parts. Everything revolves around United States. And the United Kingdom is like this tabaki from the, Rudyard Kipling's, jungle stories. So, and if you remember who Tabaki was, he was a small jackal who was running around Sher Khan's, who was a tiger, a big honcho, and he was sucking up to him. So that's what the United Kingdom is. And so if that hasn't been enough, and of course this is the histrionics of Mr. Zelensky with pensioners, I mean, it would have been laughable if it wouldn't have been so sad. And then we have this situation that France is now becoming I don't know, it's a circus, basically. It's the nation which has no self-respect. They will believe me, they will elect another Macron. It goes without saying. And here's Arnaud Bertrand commenting on this yesterday. This is absolutely crazy. After becoming the youngest 34-year-old and by far least experienced French Prime Minister, Gabriel Attal appointed his former husband, Stéphane Séjourne. They apparently broke up last year, although neither ever publicly confirmed it, as Minister of whatever the hell, Foreign Affairs. So there you go. There you go, guys. And can you imagine this Minister of Foreign Affairs being the guy of the alternative, so to speak, inclinations in the, in the bedroom? So talking to Russians. of course, Russia is not going to talk to him, and because for them, Russians rub them the wrong way. Because, as you know, you can read Russian constitution what it says about the family and how it is formed. So this is it. Now they have this another wet dreamer, and it just, you know what, you look at this. It's a bunch of morons basically running there. So here's the guy, defense minister of Italy. And he now, pretends that, you know what, we can develop a new dual-track strategy combining military support and pursuit of negotiation settlement. So Italian Defense Ministry Guido Crosetto said Wednesday, "We have two paths, that of aid without ifs and buts," explained Crosetto, "and that of attempting to build a diplomatic path that brings us to the end of the conflict. The coming months will have to balance deterrence and diplomacy." A defense minister formulation is similar to those made by advocates of diplomacy in the United States. Again, I have news for those people, including the advocates of diplomacy in the United States. Russia is not gonna be talking with any of you. The only way Russia is gonna negotiate anything is, first, they present their unconditional surrender articles to whatever will be left of Ukraine, and secondly, talk about with the United States. No Europeans will be allowed. It will be talking with the United States of how we can arrange the world of the future, in which United States can retain at least some degree of sanity and, influence in whatever the, sectors or areas of the world it considers it to be, of truly national interest. And make no mistake, United States is a superpower. It's a large country. It certainly has some of the global interests, the same as Russia has and the same as China has. But again, Europe has no word in it whatsoever. It will do as told. And as we already know, United States is basically just killing Europe. And remarkably, as I already stated before, in this particular respect, interest of Russia and United States begin to coincide. Russia doesn't want strong Europe anymore, because once you get, this kind of, economic development, guess what? Only jerks are getting basically elected in European countries, and you have this obviously European Union, which is the pretty much totalitarian sect, which was revolving around Germany primarily. It was created as such. So, but when you have people like France, how can you communicate anything with Macron and his prime minister and his minister of foreign affairs? It's not even serious. I mean, do you talk to clowns and circus? No, of course not. And the same goes for the United States, as I already stated, that Russia is going to be talking primarily with the new generation of the politicians, which are beginning to emerge here in the Congress. Those people are more or less realistic, and they understand what is happening with the United States. In terms of Biden administration, no, I don't think so. Russia is not going to negotiate with them. As I already stated, I mean, they may talk on the larger, picture of the future world, but only when the United States admits that it got its ass handed to it in Ukraine. And if it doesn't admit, it will happen one way or another. But in this case, they will miss on the negotiations with Russians. So it's very simple, it's so simple I cannot even express to you. But again, Russia's not going to talk to Anthony Blinken. There's nothing to talk to him about. I mean, the guy is sheer incompetence. The same goes to Jake Sullivan. What are you going to talk to him about? I mean, the guy is a complete, he's sociopath, basically. But when you look, let alone Biden, forget it. I mean, there's not even serious talk about it. Here is what these people in Washington think that they are that important, and this is no less than Mr. Douglas McGregor himself saying yesterday that we have already put some of our forces in Finland, and I suspect if we are allowed to, we are going to put missiles in that country. That turns Finland into a magnet for attack. The globalist elites continue to tell people the Russians are coming, the Russians are coming. This is absurd. I agree with him. And fact is, if you look attentively at the situation in Finland, Finland is not doing that great, but yes, its population is completely brainwashed. Most Europeans are brainwashed. It's a little bit different with the United States, and that's why the United States is kind of still in play, despite the fact that obviously economically it's crashed now. But Europeans are, most of them are brainwashed. I mean, and the fact that even the German farmers are, fighting right now, do not fight for any normality or sanity. They fight for purely economic reasons, and the same is going to be happening in Finland. But when people are desperate, it is much easier to manipulate them. And Finns, they traditionally don't like Russians. I mean, that's what it is, and nothing you can do about it. So obviously, if they put their, whatever the missiles, if they decide to do so, Russia has already stated, we have the Leningrad military district in the process of being reestablished, and then there will be enough firepower to wipe out pretty much anything out there. So, and the same as what Mr. Medvedev said today to Rishi Sunak, basically addressing him through his Telegram channel, that, yeah, if you put the British troops in Ukraine, well, not going to end up well for United Kingdom, let alone for those British troops with whatever they have left there of people who are at least basically remotely competent. They're not going to survive there for long, but hey, whatever. As I already stated, most of what is happening in the West today, it's all about PR. It is the only thing they can do. And yes, if to demonstrate to you, it's here Mr. Narishkin, the chief honcho, big honcho of Russia Foreign Intelligence Service. And he's talking about that Washington is planning to use Russian graduates from student exchange programs in the U.S. to meddle with the presidential election this March. The head of the country's Foreign Intelligence Service, Sergei Narishkin, has said some 80,000 Russian students have traveled to the U.S. over 2 decades under programs such as Access, Advanced Summer Work and Travel, Flex, Fulbright, Global, UGrad, and other programs. Narishkin told to the media on Thursday. Washington plans to actively involve these graduates in the political struggle against the Russian authorities, he stressed. Special training programs have already been developed for them, focusing on teaching its students the methods of inciting inter-ethnic and social hatred or interfering with elections. And believe me, you can see these people Narishkin is talking about all over the place, including my blog. It's not only just Ukrainians and some CIA assets who, comment on there with all kinds of the cliches. But the point is, what is important to understand about Mr. Narishkin's position and SVR position is just a warning. The truth is, all those programs are run with the same morons who run basically any kind of institution which is now in the United States. And though 80,000 of them went through, well, one of those graduates, her name is Margarita Simonyan, she is the chief editor of Russia Today. As much as I don't like what they do in military and geopolitical sense, well, you know what? She was one of the products of those programs. So, but the issue is very simple, and this is where it has to be understood. While Narishkin also points out, and many others point out, that it's very difficult now to recruit all kinds of the fifth columnists in Russia. Not because only Russian state is very strong now. Russia strong is economically and things of this nature, but it is the fact that United States lost its shine. And it's not attractive anymore. People can see what is happening now, and the only thing you need to know when to show people is the fate of the Skid Row in LA or Kensington Avenue in Philadelphia. And there are places like this all over the United States, the first signs of the basically degeneration of the country. And that is why it's much more difficult today to find willing idiots or, useful fools who basically, it's not, that's not education, that was just preparation of psyops. That's what is this all about. But again, do not forget that all American humanities and political science and all this, departments which actually feed those people who create those programs, they were producing fraud, academic fraud, for the last 3 decades at least. And that's what you would expect. They're one fraudsters teaching other fraudsters into some garbage, basically. They know how to do things, to try to incite hatred. They will throw in some comments or throw in some articles through their well-known foreign agent outlets, but that's about it. They have been exposed. They are incompetent and illiterates, and they produce the same guys like that. And of course, add to this whole situation that now people see what is happening in the combined West, and you know what, and that is in the conclusion, which brings us to this. White House throws support behind seizing frozen Russian assets. It's, funds frozen amid Ukraine war could be used for reconstruction. Biden seeks to rally Republican support, stay aligned with G7. So, fact is, nobody knows how much money is out there, really. And just to give you the final number for you to understand, Russians went on record couple of days ago, and they stated, we have about $700 billion of foreign assets, including American ones. So just go, take those money. We're gonna nationalize the rest of it. So, and, United States in a classic American manner is trying to convince Europeans to do that. But hey, if they want to finally finish off what's left of the banking system in the West, good luck with them. And this is what I wanted to tell you today going into the weekend. So, and as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee and two. And that is it for today, guys. Have a nice weekend, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.